Okay, guys, what's up? It's me, Sam, aka with Sports, and welcome back to another video. Today's video, there's another NFL season is upon us, and so we're gonna review the upcoming season and week one. I want to try to do these weekly. Try to do like week one preview, week two preview. I'm gonna try to do them on the Tuesday or the Wednesday before the games all start. So we're gonna break down the NFC North. Sorry, I got the Lions going 12-5. They lost both coordinators, and they lost some key pieces with Frank Ragnow retiring and their top corner Carlton Davis departing from New England. But they did add DJ Reed, and they still got Jared Goff. They still got Sonic and Knuckles and Amon-Ra. So they're going to be a really good team this year. I got them 12-5, winning the NFC North. Second place, I got the Packers at 11-6. I think they're going to be about where they were last year. They look to bounce back after they lost the Eagles in the wild card. The majority of their team from last season returns. They got rid of Jair Alexander. Josh Myers left for the Jets. But they still got a lot of big pieces. Obviously, the offense, they drafted Matthew Golden with the 23rd pick in the draft to be their wide receiver of the future. They still got, obviously, Josh Jacobs. This year counts on Jordan Love. They added Aaron Banks to solidify the O-line. They still got on defense. They got Edgerrin Cooper, who's going to be emerging as a star. Xavier McKinney, one of the best one of the best safeties in baseball. They got Rashawn Gary, but last week they made probably the biggest shade we've seen in quite some time when they added three-time All-Pro edge rusher Micah Parsons, fixing a pass rush that was well below average even with Rashawn Gary, and give him a new hefty contract as well. A big year from Jordan Love should put them in the race for this division. I have the Bears. The Bears I was kind of torn about. I put them at 8-9, but realistically, I think their ceiling is 10 wins. So I'm going to say between 8 and 10 wins. They have a new first-year head coach with Ben Johnson, who was phenomenal in Detroit. They got a QB with a high ceiling in Caleb Williams, who he was the number one overall pick for a reason, and a reinvented O-line when they added Drew Dahlman and Joe Thuney to their O-line this year. However, I do think there's going to be a bit of growing pains to start the season as this team lacks identity on defense. Defensively, the talent just isn't there like it was years ago. I mean, they got Jaquan Brisker, they got Kyler Gordon, Jalen Johnson. Obviously, they got T.J. Edwards. They got Tremaine Edmonds, who needs to step up. They drafted Shamar Turner. Offensively, they still got DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, Roma Dunsley. They drafted Luther Burden and Colston Loveland. So I don't know. I think they're gonna be. I think their offense they can compete, but I think they're still a year or two away. I think they're still at least a year away from competing due to the inexperience of Johnson as a head coach and just the inconsistency around the team. Vikings are like the Bears. I put them between 7 and 10 wins. The thing with the Vikings is they could be higher as they still have some of the best talent in the division. But it all lies on J.J. McCarthy on the offense. He missed all of his rookie year with a torn meniscus, and with Sam Darnold gone, this is his year. He inherits an offense that has Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones. They acquired Jordan Mason, and they got T.J. Hawkinson at tight end. They got a good O-line. They re-solidified that. They added Ryan Kelly and Will Fries from the Colts. They added those two. Defensively, they still got some talent. They added Jaron Hargrave and Jonathan Allen to fill out the D-line. While they still got Andrew Van Ginkel, Dallas Turner, Jonathan Grenard to be edge guys. Secondary got a little worse because they lost Cam Bynum. To the Colts. But they still got Byron Murphy and Josh Metellus and an aging Harrison Smith. So overall, I think this team could still compete. I don't know what they got. Moving over to the NFC East. I got the Eagles 13-4. Yes, they're sectioning a Super Bowl hangover. But I think the Eagles are prime. I think the defending champs are prime to not necessarily repeat as Super Bowl champs, but to at least get there. Because they lost key defensive pieces: Darius Slay to the Steelers, Josh Sweat to the Cardinals, and Milton Williams to the Patriots. They have a knack for developing defensive talent. As we've seen, they have Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell, who are probably the two best young corners in the league. They got Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis up front, who those two are a lethal duo. Zach Bond. They signed Azeez Ojulari. They need a big year from Nolan Smith. So defensively, yeah, they developed. The offense really didn't lose a lot of notable talent. They still got a solid O-line. They still got Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert. There was talk about them trading Goddard. I just don't see it, though. But, yeah. So, Commanders, I got 12-5. They were the talk of the league last year. Things are finally trending upwards. They got new ownership with Josh Harris. After a brutal loss to the Eagles in the NFC title game, the Commanders, who are led by second-year head coach Dan Quinn and Jane Daniels, look to avenge said loss. They did address their important needs. They bolstered up the O-line. They got Lorenzo Tunsil to be on that blind side for Jaden Daniels. They got Deebo Samuel to be a viable number 2 option to Terry McLaurin after a contract situation with him. They got that contract signed. He's good to go. Defensively, they lost Jonathan Allen, but they did sign Javon Kinlaw, former 49er. They added Von Miller. They still got Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner, who are anchors of this team. And yeah, so I still think this Jane Daniels, I think they are the team that could regress the most, but I also think they're a team that could do better. Cowboys are 9-8. They're a team that hired a new head coach. They went internally after letting go of Mike McCarthy. They promoted offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer to the main gig. He inherited a team that went 6-11 last season, mainly due to injuries, because Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. But with a mostly healthy team, he can lead this team to the playoffs again. I have him at 9-8. Longtime guard Zach Martin called it a career, and now they rely on the rookie, and they rely on Tyler Booker to take his spot. Now, last week, and they got some talent. They got secondary. They got Trevon Diggs, Darren Bland, who they just extended. They added Solomon Thomas. They got Dante Fowler. On defense, but the big talk in the town is they traded away last week after a long contract standoff and trade request. They traded Micah Parsons to the Packers. They got Kenny Clark, so they bolstered their run defense and get a good body up front. The pass rush is still decent, but with DeMarvarian overshown out for the first 4 games of the season at least, the unit isn't the greatest right now. So I still think it could be a little aggression from the defense, because that's a morale killer trade. Giants, not much to say. Proven on defense. Javon Holland. They got Russell Wilson. Drafted Jackson Dart. That's all I'm going to say. They also got Malik Neighbors. NFC South, Buccaneers. I have the Giants at 6-11. Buccaneers, I have the 10-7. Their division didn't get much better. Baker Mayfield enters year 3 with a team that helped revitalize his career, but with another offensive coordinator. He has a lot of the same personnel on offense, and Chris Godwin will be back this year after missing part of last year with the torn ACL. They drafted speedy receiver Igmika Egbuka, the former Ohio State Buckeye, to fill in that role. They just extended their right tackle, Luke Godecki. They just gave him a nice extension. Defensively, they still got pretty good pieces. They added Hassan Reddick after a weird standoff with the Jets. They add him. They got an aging Levante David, but overall, I think this team at 10-7 is still poised. Falcons 8-9. The team is there. Michael Penix looked flat, had flashes of potential last year. With a run-first offense led by third-year standout Bijan Robinson, the workload becomes more manageable for Penix. Because he also has a security blanket with Drake London, who's finally in a system that'll fit his style. They also had a big year from Darnell Mooney and Ray McLeod, so those would be names to watch. Kyle Pitts needs to step up. O-line, they still got decent pieces. Ryan Newsel slides in what Drew Dahlman did. Their star left tackle, or their star right tackle, Caleb McGarry's out for the year, so there's an opening there. Defensively, they drafted Jelon Walker and James Pierce on the edge. They signed Leonard Floyd. So this team is they also added Divine Diablo. So this defense got a little better because obviously they added Jordan Fuller as well. So the pieces are there. I just don't see it. I have them at 8 and 9. I don't know. Just something about the Falcons. Panthers. A lot of people think of them as a playoff team. Bryce Young, after being benched for 2 games last year, came back and started showing the Panthers why they picked him at number 1 in 2023. Not that he was elite, but he played well enough to eliminate the idea of being a bust. Chuba Hubbard had his best season of his career with over 1,000 yards. Looks to become the main piece of the offense. They drafted Arizona rookie Tetiora McMillan to be their new rookie receiver. They still have Xavier Legette. They signed Hunter Renfrow. They just traded Adam Thielen to the Vikings, so they lose the veteran presence in their receiving, but I guess that's where Hunter Renfrow slides in. Tight end is still a weakness. O-line is still pretty good. The defense was terrible last year. They tried to spend some money, but I don't think it really went all too well for them. And they added Siobhan Moring, the former Raider safety. So, guess we'll see. A lot of people think this team could make a wild card run. I think they could, but I have them at 7 and 10. I just don't. I just don't see it. Saints 3 and 14. Derek Carr retired. Tyrann Mathieu retired. Ryan Ramczyk retired. The roster's old. Lacks talent. Isn't going to be that good. They got Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara on offense, but really nothing else. Brandon Cooks came back. Spencer Rattler becomes QB1. Tyler Shough is QB2. But I don't like how the team is shaping up under Kellen Moore. NFC West now. Rams 11 and 6. Think they're going to be the best team in the division. They're still the perennial favorites. They got a lot of returning starters, especially because that defense is so young. Kobe Turner, Byron Young, rookie Jared Verse, and Omar Speights had really great years last year. And they're still young, and they're only going to get better. Secondary is still a little questionable. They signed former commander Emmanuel Forbes. They also still got. So I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to shape up. Offensively, they added Devontae Adams after they released Cooper Kupp. They got him as a primary weapon for Matthew Stafford, who despite his age is still one of the better QBs in the league with the perfect coach and Sean McVay. I still think a Super Bowl is realistic for this team, especially with Kyren Williams too. Seattle, I have at 9 and 8 and second in the division. They traded Geno Smith and DK Metcalf. They released longtime wideout Tyler Lockett. In their place, Sam Darnold slides in to be the quarterback. They drafted Jalen Milroe to kind of be like that QB of the future. They still got a good running game with Kenneth Walker Jr., although expect Zach Charbonnet to take some more carries. With Metcalf and Lockett gone, Jackson Smith-Njigba, the fourth-year wideout, slides in as the number 1 option. Like I said, they got Cooper Kupp. Tight end, they let Noah Fant go, so expect Elijah Arroyo to take over that starting role. O-line, they still got solid pieces. They drafted Gray Zubel in the first round. Defensively, they added DeMarcus Lawrence on the edge to pair with Leonard Williams. That's a big move for them. They still got Ernest Jones. They really didn't make a lot of moves aside from that, but they still got a pretty good team. With Mike McDonald, Mike McDonald looks to improve in his second year at the helm, but due to the shrink of the division and this division being competitive, 49ers, I'm gonna bump them up. I have them at 8 and 9, but I think they're gonna go 10 and 7 and go in second. Everyone's healthy now. Brock Purdy's healthy. Christian McCaffrey's healthy. They acquired Brian Robinson Jr. Debo's gone. Brandon Ayuk is going to miss the first few weeks of the season. So receiving core is a little banged up. They still got George Kittle. O-line is still decent. I think they'll be fine. Defense, they acquired Bryce Huff from the Eagles. They drafted Michael Williams. Diomodor Lenore, I'm expecting to step up a bit. They lost Dre Greenlaw though, so I think that's quite a big loss for them. But overall, if this team can stay healthy, I think this team can win 10 games. Cardinals 8-9. I just don't see it. Jonathan Gannon, I feel like, is a good coach. Their main issue last year was defense, so they did allocate some funds. They signed Super Bowl champ Josh Sweat. They drafted Will Johnson in the second round. They also got Denzel Burke. They added an aging but still good Calais Campbell and Dalvin Tomlinson. Offensively, it'll rely on Kyler Murray. They got James Conner still in the backfield. Marvin Harrison Jr. has to take that next step, though. He needs to be better. Or else it's going to be a long year for them. So that is the focus on the NFC. For the AFC now, we are going to start with the AFC North. We're going to start with the Ravens, 13-4. Not much to detail with them. They bring back a lot of the same offense. They added Pro Bowl wideout DeAndre Hopkins to solidify the receiver room to pair with Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. Lamar looks to have another strong MVP campaign. Defense, they added former Bengals Chidobe Awuzie. They also added former Packers Pro Bowl corner Jair Alexander. And they drafted Malachi Starks to fill up that safety room. There's no reason to think that this team cannot contend for a Super Bowl with the talent they got on this team. Then Bengals, I got at 11-6. Offense is fine. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins get long-term extensions. Chase Brown emerged as a true running back number 1 for them. And obviously they got Joe Burrow, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Defensively, this team was terrible with their 8-9 record. Lou Anarumo was fired as defensive coordinator, which means Al Golden slides in. They have contract issues with star pass rusher Trey Hendrickson, who had requested a trade after a lot. But they gave him a mini extension that keeps him happy and around. I still think there's a chance if things go south, they trade him. They also had a contract standoff with rookie defensive end Shamar Stewart. Because of the focus of those two, they really didn't get a whole lot of big names. They added Dalton Reisner. That's really about it. They really didn't do a lot of moves other than that. Oh, Mike Gesicki also got a contract. Steelers, I got a 10-7. Team is having a winning record. It's almost inevitable. Mike Tomlin has done it with Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett at quarterback. This year, Tomlin gives the keys of the offense to the 41-year-old future Hall of Fame quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who can provide leadership and stability to this offense that kind of lacked it. Team traded George Pickens due to his attitude, so they lost their wide receiver 1, but they brought in DK Metcalf to be the wide receiver 1, but they lack a true number 2. Right now, you'd say that's probably Calvin Austin. O-line, still pretty good. Could be better. Pratt Freiermuth at tight end, obviously. Najee Harris left for the Chargers, so Jalen Warren is expected to be the new full-time running, well, not full-time, but to be the number 1 back. They just gave him a 2-year extension. They drafted rookie Caleb Johnson, who is from Iowa. He had a great preseason, but it looks like he's going to start as cute as running back 3 on the depth chart. Defense, they had a contract dispute for a bit with TJ Watt, but they got that situated. He's back. They signed Juan Thornhill, Darius Slay, Chuck Clark, and then they acquired Jalen Ramsey from the Dolphins and Jonnu Smith from the Dolphins. He's a tight end to fill out their defensive back room. Cam Hayward is in the middle of a contract situation, but I still think they're going to be a really... I do like how the Steelers team looks on paper. We'll see if Rodgers has what it takes to lead them. Cleveland Brown, I got them at 5-12. What a disaster! Deshaun Watson wasn't good and suffered a torn Achilles. And Jameis Winston was fine with what he had. Nick Chubb fell off after returning torn up knee. Defense was atrocious. They ended 3-14. Kevin Stefanski's back this year. They finally had a first round pick. They were number 2 overall, but they traded to Jacksonville to move up to pick 5 and selected Mason Graham, who could pair nicely on that D line with Myles Garrett. They added Jerome Baker to make up the linebacking. Offensively, they added rookies Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson, and Raheem Sanders at running back to go behind Jerome Ford. But the problem is Judkins had some issues. He didn't sign, he's just on the report. Joe Flacco is brought back in to be the starter after he went to the Colts last year. Behind him will be Dylan Gabriel and rookie Shedeur Sanders, who will look to compete to be the QB of the future. Only time can tell with this organization. They have some talent, but not a lot to be like, yeah. AFC East, Bills, they got the MVP, Josh Allen. They bring back the same offense, and defensively, they brought back Tre'Davious White and drafted Maxwell Hairston for the secondary. Buffalo's once again the AFC favorite. Jets, I have them at 9-8. Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, Aaron Rodgers are gone. Darren Mogi, Aaron Glenn, and Justin Fields are in. Glenn inherits a team that went 5-12 last year, but has plenty of talent. Garrett Wilson once again takes his throne as wide receiver 1. Breece Hall's running back 1, but they got a really solid backup in Braylon Allen. They drafted Mason Taylor, who's the son of former Jets linebacker Jason Taylor, to be their new tight end. And they drafted Armand Membu at pick 7 to be their tackle of the future. Defensively, they gave Sauce Gardner a new contract. They drafted Malachi Moore. They gave Jamin Sherwood a nice extension. They acquired Harrison Phillips. So, overall, and they did lose Elijah Vera Tucker, though, to injury. So, overall, though, I do like how this team is shaping up. A lot of this team will determine how far Fields can carry them as quarterback 1. Dolphins are going to be 8-9. They're weird. They're not good. They're not terrible. Darren Waller's out of retirement to be their tight end, who plays Jonnu Smith after they traded him. They still got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa. The team will go as far as Tua takes them. They added Matthew Judon and Willie Gay to their linebacker core, so that's a good move. They got Minkah Fitzpatrick back in the Jalen Ramsey trade, so it's a nice safety for them. Like I said, this team isn't great, but it's not terrible. They just gotta stay healthy, especially on defense. Patriots, I got at 6-11. A lot of people think that they could be playoff hopes. I don't see it, just because of how good their division could be. Drake May looked promising last year in his rookie year. Mike Vrabel was brought in to build a culture after a 4-13 year last year with Gerard Mayo. Hopefully May can develop something under Vrabel's tutelage. To do that, the team allocated a lot of resources to build a team. They extended Ramondre Stevenson. They also drafted Trayvon Henderson. They signed veteran Stephon Diggs and Matt Collins in their receiving core. They still got Hunter Henry. O-line, they added veteran Morgan Moses, and they added the release Garrett Bradbury, who had spent the previous 6 years with the Vikings. Defensively, they signed Milton Williams. They also added Carlton Davis to pair with Christian Gonzalez. Robert Spillane. They also added Harold Landry, Levon Chason. So overall, this team, I still think they have solid pieces, but I think they're still a little ways from competing. This year is going to be a development and rebuilding year. AFC South, Texans, they traded away Ramsey Tunsil, but they got Cam Robinson to replace him, so it's not too bad. Laken Tomlinson's also added at guard. They added Nick Chubb to be a backup running back, but with Joe Mixon out for a little while, possibly the whole year, he slides in as the starter. Wide receiver wise, Nico Collins had a great year. They've signed Christian Kirk after he got released by Jacksonville. They drafted Jaden Higgins, went to Iowa State. Defensively, they still got one of the best edge rusher duos with Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson. That duo is going to be lethal. They acquired C.J. Gardner-Johnson in a trade with the Eagles. So they still got C.J. Stroud, who I think is going to bounce back after a sophomore slump. So I'm not too worried about them. Jaguars are kind of like the Vikings to me. They could be good, they could be bad. They got a new head coach. Liam Cohen. It was hard to right the ship. He's already bringing fun energy to his opening press conference. They still got with the number 2 pick, which they traded up to get. They got wide receiver and cornerback Travis Hunter, who they want to have play both ways. So we'll see how that works. The potential's there. Trevor Lawrence has to be better. He wasn't terrible last year, but he wasn't great. Tank Bigsby comes in. He kind of replaced Travis Etienne as like the premier back. I think they'll still utilize Etienne, but I think Bigsby kind of beat him out. Brenton Strange takes over after they released Evan Ingram. Receiving wise, Brian Thomas Jr. emerged last year as a top threat. So did Parker Washington. O-line, Brandon Scherf retired. Walker Little slides into his spot. They added Robert Hainsey and Patrick McCarry to fill in the O-line. Defensively, they got Javon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen as an edge rush duo. Javon Walker really stepped up last year. They added Jordan Lewis from Dallas. They still got Tyson Campbell, who had a great year. So overall, I think 8 and 9 is realistic for them. So we'll see what happens. Colts, I don't even know what to think of the Colts. They're in the midst of a weird roster structure. They brought in that last week. Shane Steichen announced that Daniel Jones would be their starting quarterback for 2025, beating out former number 4 overall pick Anthony Richardson. So take with that as you will. They lost their center Ryan Kelly to Minnesota, so second year Tanner Bortolini slides in at center now. They also lost Will Fries. Personnel for receivers remains the same. They still got Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Adonai Mitchell is probably going to get a bigger role. Josh Downs is okay. Jonathan Taylor, when healthy, is one of the best running backs in the league. They drafted Tyler Warren in the first round of the 2025 draft, so he probably slides in as the number 1 tight end now. Defensively, they allocated their resources to fill in the secondary. That was terrible last year. They signed Cam Bynum from the Vikings, Charvarius Ward from the Niners, Xavier Howard. They still got Kenny Moore, who's one of the better corners in the league. They still got Zaire Franklin, who needs to have a big year. DeForest Buckner, Samson Ebukam, those guys. Rudy Pay has to step up more. But I don't see it. Titans 5 and 12. This is a rebuilding year. Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick. He's going to have his struggles. I don't trust Brian Callahan as a coach. Tajay Spears is out. Tony Pollard is still the number 1. They added Tyler Lockett as like a veteran presence. Shamiri DK and Malik Iomanor slide in as receivers. Shigo Conko is still tight end. Jeffrey Simmons is still on the defensive front. L'Jarius Sneed needs to step up. They added Kevin Zeitler on the O-line. That's really all I can say. It's going to be a rebuild year. Chiefs. It's the Chiefs. We don't have to explain. I have them at 12 and 5. Chargers, I have at 11 and 6. Jim Harbaugh, I trust him with Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton with running backs. They still got a top 10 quarterback in Justin Herbert. Ladd McConkey had a phenomenal year last year. I think he's going to step up. Quentin Johnston did better than his rookie year. Keenan Allen's back. They signed Tyler Conklin to be their tight end. O-line is there. O-line is okay. They added Mekhi Becton, but he's probably not going to start. defense. They let Asante Samuel Jr. go, so they got Dante Jackson as on their starters in the secondary. So yeah, it'll be a big year for them. Broncos, Onyx, Dre Greenlaw was added. I think it's going to be a big year for them. 10-7. Team's still the same. J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey to be added at running back. Evan Ingram. And then the Raiders, 8-9. Pete Carroll's there. Geno Smith, Ashton Gentu's drafted. They got Brock Bowers. Defense is still kind of terrible. But yeah, so yeah, that's my rundown for this season. I will do week 1 predictions later. But yeah, you guys have to stay for the next video.